Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. That's right, the Mud Flood, the Armageddon. Do not let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Literally, was running a few seconds behind because I had to do some housekeeping. Really. I guess I just started a little bit later than I thought. I was going to write something down, but it probably wouldn't have been any different than they have lied about everything, not me. One of the thumbnails I was going to use was like, I just saw a YouTube video about, wow, we thought we knew how lift worked on an aeroplane. The wings shaped of it caused lift. Turns out they're just making that up too. They didn't know, but it does kind of prove. I got to make sure there it is on the share screen. It does kind of prove that if you say something with confidence that people will believe you, but say it long enough, loud enough, there's a globe. Did I say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everybody to Mud Flood Was Armageddon? Because the mud flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else. If not, we're going to just roll right through that because I showed the disclaimer. I do have some pictures. I want to keep this rolling. This is interrupting. Always showing these pictures to a friend of mine. This is interrupting my rest, my spring break. Hola, sister. How are you? Good to see you, Salty. Rebel Duster checking in, and we've got. It's confirmed then, because I was leaning hard towards calling it brainwashing myself, Big Al. Way to go, man. I like it when two or three witnesses come together. I had some other pictures, so let's look at those. Maybe we'll come back to those. Man, what? Oh, is this it? Look at that. Corporations are people, my friend. Mitt Romney. He's a Republican. He was running for president against Mitt Romney, Barack Obama. When my son was flat spinning because they were using an old plane because Barack Obama was trying to prove to Mitt Romney that he was not weak on terror, and they were using the technology that is related to Malaysian Flight 370. It is that Freescale that was, the Carlyle Group. And now that they have the AI, they don't need those spies that can, I don't know, I guess there was some sort of a device that even if you took the battery out of it and walked away 100 yards, they could still hear you. And that's what this was all about. But now that the Carlyle Group and the MH in Malaysian 370 went down, it's all under control. It's all a plan. Of course, they were going to, if Mitt Romney calls Barack Obama weak on terror, it's time to kick their ass. We're going to be looking at this. Some raids and civil wars you never heard of. I just saw these star forts, and we're going to have to go over a lot of different things today because I'm not in control of how God gives me. It's almost like these 7 days of this spring break is for the 7 years of rest that I just get back in like Noodle Island. We get to, come on. How cool is that? We're going to be looking at Pittsburgh too. That's a big one. There it is. Look at these guys. Hey, let's go build this tunnel, you guys. We didn't find it. We're going to go build it. Hey, what's missing? Remember the golden spike when they linked up the transcontinental? When did they stop using those? Because that's always been a bad idea. And I've always, not always, but since I've been on this mission, said that it's a body part, and they do it because it's the clenched up muscles of people dying in the flood or dying in the boilers at Bethlehem Steel. We're going to look at these tunnels. This is the tunnel that supposedly the Chinese and the Irish built at Donner Pass, that Donner Pass, and this is the last I'm going to mention of the cannibalism unless it sneaks out. Donner's Pass cannibalism is only for an obfuscation. I cut this out here because it said somebody put the rocks cry out. That must be it. Because there were people in this stream that we were watching that were all about flat earth and the golden age past. They even knew that the rocks were crying out. We got a good one here where Luther said RJ looks smarter, because I said this guy looks like a younger RJ, but he kind of has a squeaky voice. So yeah, it's coming out. This is wrong. The third law of motion and how they were explaining flight, they don't know what's going on. This is wrong. The main problem with this theory is that the airfoil does not act like a Venturi nozzle, since there is not another surface to complete the nozzle. The air molecules are not restricted as they would be in a jet nozzle. Think the hydrogen peroxide bombs that were the V2, that were the mercury vapor. When they say it's a liquid propellant, it was hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. I guess it could be a form of liquid. Anyway, they got the skipping stone theory. I don't know. Maybe we'll look at that. That's another false one that nothing fully explains. They don't know. You see, the bang hang up is you see the shape of the wing, and they got the counter pressures here, and this explains why it flies. What doesn't explain, okay, how come those $3.99 balsa wood airplanes with the flat wings, how come they fly? They don't have curved wings and angles of attack. They just got a stamped out piece of flat wood, and it flies, because Bernoulli's equation could be faked. It's named after somebody who came up with it in his book in 1738. You reset much? You do every day. So in 1779, George Cayley, he goes, I got it. These four forces, lift, drag, weight, thrust. You got to have your wing curved like a bird, and nobody will ever invent a balsa airplane. So these incorrect theories are still featured in most encyclopedias, educational websites, leaving students feeling confused. So it's okay. I was confused too until I realized there are liars, lying liars. The symbol 24 of the symbols of Pythagoras indicates never break bread. Bread is broken in Matthew. However, bread is not broken in John's gospel, the synoptic. I'm telling you that this is all part of a grand Judaizing scheme to somehow bring in the Noahide laws. So when I got that figured out about how they're going to bring in the Noahide laws, you'll be the first to know. I got a thing banned, but I couldn't figure out how old it was. Proof that balsa wood can fly.
2, 3, throw it. You can see that.
Worst
I want to start
balsa flame example ever. Why would I leave that in there? Because he's smart.
Lift, then you'll be forced to say, okay, that can't be the explanation. There has to be more to it. So let's do that right now. So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think a 3D
Really, I think a picture's worth about 2,482 words.
prop of some kind is probably worth 1 million or 1
Inflation, you
trillion
know.
words. This is an aircraft wing. If you go look at made of wood here, and it's flat. There's no curvature to it. It has some thickness, but very little.
Not
If you
very much Bible stuff going on here, is there? We'll get moving on.
3 different reasons so far for lift. One of them is bouncing off the bottom. One of them is a difference in pressure from the bottom than the top. And the other one is that the wind is hugging and sticking to the top of this surface and being angled downward from horizontal to downward. That change in
You ever seen those monkeys hug a little blanket when they're in those experiments? Nobody wants to hang onto a wire pretend mommy. They've experimented so many different things, and it's when that's what I picture the wind hugging that wing. Little turbulence vortices. So they got to stretch it. They still don't know. They wish they knew. We'll just brush up on it a little bit. How does it work? We'll see if this is covered in the Wikipedia. Come on, man. I am not. This owlification. This is supposed to be what applications. All right. Well, we're not going to do it. Owlification. I'm not even going to look at that one. We saw it anyway. So there's incorrect theories from NASA. And it's that skipping stone equal transit. I know we'll look at that. Where did the false equal transit time explanation of lift originate? It is supposedly a widely circulated false claim that wings generate lift because of their asymmetrical shape, forcing air above to travel faster so that they meet up on the tailing edge at the same time as air below. And by Bernoulli's equation, the pressure below the wing must therefore be higher. Incorrect, Bernoulli, although for 100 years without you, they couldn't have fashioned the fake atomic bomb. This is these high school students did a better job at proving a flat wing. Go, girl. It's generating lift. How about that? It's flat. Does have a little kick up on the edge there. What do they call that? I know Learjet, Bombardier were the first ones to pioneer that. I redid their warehouse in Chicago, and they modeled it in Frankfurt or Berlin. This stuff is just getting out of hand. This is 3 years ago, but it's out of hand. He's looking for explanations in the comments. I didn't see any. Can you help him?
I can't believe what was through that hatch, mate. That was awful. If anyone knows what that is, you gotta let me know, man.
We're at 45 minutes. We can remember that. You know, they decided to sneak into an old. This is Manchester. This is for RJ Manchester. He's got a fascination with the heritage of Manchester. It's like 1888 to him. He can't get it off of his mind. He's thinking there's something underground. There's more to this town than meets the eye. And it's not just because it ends with Chester, which is like a Roman word for town in England. It's everywhere. And they're just wandering around looking at the people below because they just left these buildings like this just in. Nobody needs them anymore because we've been reset. We've been orphan trained.
Yeah, more of the same.
They're all the same. Just building after building. So they're just wandering around. Then they decided, let's go down. Let's go underground.
Smell the mold in here.
You smell moldy in there?
That is very strong.
Everything's just closing down, but that's cool with them. Here, I wanted to go here instead.
Oh my lord. Oh my lord, look at that. Well, that's a big spider there, but I don't care. Holy smoke, where does that go?
Well, these guys aren't afraid to get off of their you know what and get out and go like I'm gonna go check it out. So we're 15 minutes away
Look
from
at
the
this, guys. Oh man,
looks like they decided to go underground because they're one of those
get a shot of the
they're
back of
urban
that for you
explorers,
guys.
which
It's like
basically means trespass. I don't need no stinking badges.
unreal.
That's messed up. And but you know what I mean. When we're that's just where you go buy your lunch, I'm sure.
Unreal. Have you seen, like, oh wow,
This is all under the city of
seen
Manchester. I'm
these little
focused on
line,
that
low
today.
lying
It's
ceilings?
actually
All this.
just because RJ
That
called
is
it
under the streets
Manchester
of
one
Manchester
time, I
city
thought
centre,
I
man.
got kind of like, that's funny.
How
And then it's
cool
like
is that?
stuck in my mind. So I always fall back on like if I see something from Manchester,
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I'm gonna try to get RJ interested in it. So we're coming up on here's how they discover that. What the heck's going on with
Oh,
that
they're
one
terrible, the
place?
torches, but I don't know if you can make out the tunnel over
They can
there.
hear the cars going above them.
Oh, wow. Guys, you can't
It's a
even understand
river.
how the scale of it, man. It's huge. Oh, there
This
we
is
go,
just
yeah.
part of the underground in Manchester.
Look at that, man. It is humongous as well. You've got to understand how big it is. This camera cannot do it justice. That is unbelievable. Wow. I can't believe that. That is like, I weren't expecting that, mate. Unbelievable. That has made my day, that. I'm telling you. Wow. What does that? That is unreal. Oh, look at that. What the hell is that? If anyone knows what that is, you got to let me know.
So we got TLI in. That's pretty obvious. The other side was store. STORE, storage. Hanging in there pretty good. It looks like it wasn't made yesterday. Looks like the electrical attachments added to it later were just snapped right in and are holding tight. This piece of wood, unknown while it's there.
No, man. I can't make it out. Stalling something. I don't know, man.
looks like bits are missing off.
Oh, mate, you know I'm on Google all night chasing all this stuff. Believe me, I can't believe what was through that hatch, mate. That was awesome. That's one of the best things I've ever seen doing this, you know.
These guys are some serious urban explorers, but that's about as close as I want to stay in the city. Just maybe go to tail along with. Come on, I'm old, but I'm scrappy. I want to go.
It's like literally a Victorian era underground street, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
There's cars going up above them. They showed them earlier. Where was that?
Now, guys, getting closer to the bottom. Going underground, man.
This is the corrugated bit onto the concourse.
Oh, wow.
That's what you want.
Who's that remind you of? Going underground,
So
man.
originally
Who
this.
is that? That's somebody in our world. I just can't put my finger on it. Oh, I was going to mention the Sierra Nevadas, the Donner Pass. It's where, supposedly their legends, their lies, they all come up with Donner Pass. First transcontinental railroad went through there. Do you know they had to build a shed, so they say, to dig out and blow up the granite to get through this, like the Erie Canal, a 40-mile shed to keep the snow off of them. I guess this used to be a lake or a river until Armageddon. So they dug this out. Chinese people, Irish people. But they made this thing called the Chinese Wall. I hope I show that. So they're just one of the many tunnels they had to
carved through the granite and just got this one looks longer. A lot more going on there. Here's the Chinese wall. Well, thanks. That's good. Appreciate that, Wikipedia. Everybody likes your small pictures. You've seen me. I posed by the Donner Pass. So that is not me. First the victory. So, but the thing is, this pass, which is very dangerous, it's like they had to use it because it was already carved out. I mean, they had to do something because the California Trail used it. The first transcontinental railroad used it with their fake railroad spikes. The overland route, where would they be without it? Lincoln Highway, you ever heard of that? Like maybe that was like Route 60. Victory Highway, everybody had to go through Donner Pass. Route 40, Route 80. Dwight D. Eisenhower probably had something to do with that. Interstate 80. All right. So they had the Stephen Townsend Murphy Party. This was a well-established place when the Doom Donner Party found it blocked by snow. Half of them survived, but still, that's a lot of people dying. 3 years of sustained drilling and blasting. That's why they needed 40-mile-long sheds to keep the trains going, because for 3 years they had to blast these tunnels out of these body parts of the Titans that were reserved in judgment that people had been using for thousands of years, because there's nothing new and all they do is lie. They can't even tell you how birds fly or water is separated from water. I'm going to try. It might be enough just to say, just roll through these tabs and see what the Lord has got going here. 14th Amendment to American citizens. Civil War. This has something to do with the corporations being people. All right. We can get, that's what this is about. How the 14th Amendment, that's for slavery, made corporations into people. Thanks to a few key Supreme Court cases and controversial legal concept known as corporate personhood. 14th Amendment had something to do with people going like, wait, corporations have way too much power. But Mitt Romney, the Magna Carta, 1965, comes back to abortion, ruled that a state ban on the use of contraceptives violated a couple's right to marital privacy. What a penumbra. A shadowy zone, a gray zone in the guarantees of the Bill of Rights. Where's my rubber? Something like that. I mean, it's again the law. You can't, you got to get them on the down low. But so they've been working this same plan. That's my takeaway. I could show you all of these things, but you already know it's all part of the same plan. They're going to pick on the Hobby Lobby. They're trying to do the right thing. They should have never got mixed up with that Harvest Bible Church. Do you know the founder of the Harvest Bible Church? Have you ever heard of that? Walk in the Word, Pastor James McDonald. He took over coaching for me when something happened and I had to go back to doing varsity. That James McDonald. And the guys from Willow Creek that were starting their own church while we were starting the world's largest homeschool. We're right there in about, 10, 15 miles. They all went to Christian Liberty here, pretty much. It was all the John Birch plan. And I didn't mean to be in on it. I just happened to be there. Because of that, so the doctrine of election will stand. Where would we be? Should we pull this up and say, where's the history of corporations? They showed McDonald's. I'm afraid it started way before that. This is corporate personhood. Where's Mitt Romney? We want to blame him and Barack Obama. Where are they? Roman Republic. We blame them all the time for everything. For even complicit in the murder of Jesus, but the blood's not on their hands. This East India Company, the end of the golden age, broke new ground. It's time to make money, everybody. They realized at the end of the 1,000 years, before 1711, we're going to just touch on the Gregorian Julian calendars later, much later. And that was all going on at the time when they said, you know what, I don't think that they mean that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil means that I shouldn't love money and that we shouldn't want to make money, because I think we can switch it into a somehow when we dumb people down enough, we'll just call it name it and claim it. God wants us all to be prosperous and healthy and happy, and everybody's going to get their own harp in heaven. Hey, man, under Indian law in India, everybody does it now. United States, this isn't a thing now, and it's just like, wow, let's do it. First Bank of the United States, 20-year monopoly. It's always been about the money since the resets. And corporations are kind of people. First corporation jurisdictions now allow creation of new corporations through registrations. But where is the legal jurisdiction that you can point me to in the last 320 years? Approximations and Satan is loosed. I mean, who really has got jurisdiction that, oh, they started that war and it was fair and square? Ask Japan. They tried to start some wars and said, we need to expand. And well, they did. And everybody eventually said, wow, they are really good at expanding. Let's gang up on them. Something like that. I'm not saying Japan should rule the world at all. I'm just saying they almost did. Here's a corporation from what they call 1288. Looks pretty serious, doesn't it? It's got a bunch of signatures. They got 1/8 of a share of a mine in the store. This mine, it's a copper mine. It's still working, you know, but you could have bought shares in it. And what they say was, you know, right around the beginning of the age that was ruled with the rod of iron. I got introduced to a new word today, last night, really. I just wrote it down last night. I was going to look it up. I had a friend here, young man. He had to go to the hospital because of this, something that it is, this is pneumomediastium, and it was first described in 1819. They say it can be a condition from physical trauma, and it just hit him out of nowhere. And he's the fourth person that I know, and they've all been kind of in pretty good shape, you know. But be on the lookout for this. It's a real thing. So this is, I thought this was interesting. These people, you know, they're into that. Go ahead.
He told them, you know, to find the river and follow the river to the lake, and from the lake to go up over the cliffs. And they did.
Not like me thinking it was just the route the semis took when I was a kid. It was called trucking because of 18
Because of the trucks. Well, that's what I thought too. I think a lot of people think that. No, Chief Truckee of the Paiute told them how to get up there.
Right.
And that first wagon train over the hill.
How cute is that? They're wearing the matching shirts, you know.
To dismantle their wagons once they got to Donner Lake.
Oh my gosh.
And then haul them piece by piece up over the cliff. Then take all the furniture out and their sofas and
I don't believe this,
whatever else,
even a little
all
bit.
hauled up over the cliffs by ropes. And then reassembled
You notice they got the couch and the chair already lowered.
on the other side. And
You know,
then
how long they say they could do this in 3 months across the whole United States. You couldn't even get across the San Juan Mountains in 3 months doing this and with everybody's furniture.
continue on to California.
These cliffs,
So this is why the Donner Party never got out of there.
I can see.
A typical year up there will there will be something like, 30, 40 feet of snow
At least.
accumulation,
Right.
which makes keeping the road open kind of a challenge.
It does.
And keeping the railroad open. So part of what we're going to be hiking through here is not just the tunnels. When they built the railroad, it was considered.
I dated this one girl named Jane for a long time in high school and after high school, just on and off for a long time. I guess we were in love. But one time we we showed up at, I met her at a dance at, county fair or something like that. And she wouldn't go in because we were wearing the same shirt.
The railroad through there.
That's what I would have thought.
It's going to be, and then if you do get it, how are you going to keep it open when it snows?
Good question.
Because there's 40 feet of snow. And he said, well, we're going to cover the track over with wooden sheds, and a lot of it will be in tunnels. Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
Because all these tunnels and the dugways and everything all had to be hand dug.
Right.
Sure.
Hand dug and blasted out with black powder. There was no dynamite, and that didn't work. So they bought nitroglycerin. Well,
There you go. I think I have somewhere it's pulled up where I wonder if it's this guy that explains how they found it. Don't go too close to the edge, Junior. I don't want you to fall 2,000 feet to your painful death.
through the area. So there were no railroads in the west until the Central Pacific started building in the Sacramento Valley. And then even they built for years before they got to Auburn, and they were staring up at these mountains going,
my
What's that?
and they
aunt used
stopped
to
them
do
for
that
years
same
until
thing with her
funding and the
tongue.
government and blah,
I
blah,
wonder
blah. But
These
Originally,
pictures are
the
just
transport
awesome,
for the
though, that
railroad
this
only
couple
connected to
provided.
Sacramento. I guess they call
Donner
it the
Pass.
West
There's a
Coast.
few more tabs on this. Get
But there were
settle
tracks being
down,
laid
buckle in.
everywhere around
Top of the
Sacramento,
world.
which is becoming
This
the
is like maybe a
transportation
month or
hub
2 months of the year.
America, or at least Western America, and that was making it very, very, very profitable for some of these store owners and people.
We got to make the
Most of the
money.
country was pretty easy to bridge, but
I kind of
there were
want to see
people
some more
saying, "We're
about
never
the
going
snow-covered
8-9 months long." I
shed.
mean, seriously,
They
it's
are.
there's snow
They-
straight under Mount Judah for almost 2 miles, bypassing all of this section over the summit,
There you go.
which of course is the only reason.
See,
it
look
was
at that, man. These are the tunnels that are way up here. And then they, eventually they could have quit hauling their wagons and everything underneath there. I saw more than 2. Here's Tunnel 41. The Sugar Bowl Resort.
Come up here and hike this line. You can't hike an active line, for crying out loud.
I want to see
Here we can
the
see
China
the west
Wall.
portal of the new tunnel, not that far away from west portal of the old original
She whiz. Inside it looks like this.
scene.
Look at the black from the previous locomotives that would have gone through here.
Can you imagine the soot and smoke inside here when steam engines were coming through? Unbelievable. And again, it doesn't look that long, but it's an optical illusion.
yeah.
It's an optical delusion.
Kevin, how about that?
That's neat.
I wish we could go back and write it.
Me too.
That's
Well,
what
being
these
that
guys
this is
do.
essentially a
I looked at
like
their
a
channel.
stock
They go
record,
around. They love this stuff.
entirely
They
by
go around
hand.
looking at all the old
all
tunnels.
these stones
This is
had
the
to be
China
lifted in
retaining
place
wall.
by hand. Now, once the wall was finished and the track in place, then the crew could come in to start building the wooden snow sheds, because these open areas were all now going to be enclosed under roofs to keep snow off.
We're going
of
to
the
tie it
snow
all
sheds.
together
There's just
somehow.
no
The
way
spirit
to
will tie it
clear
all
the snow
together.
out of here.
Because it's,
It
well,
looks like they're
we're
still
lied
building that
to.
wall.
Yeah, it probably took a lot longer to finish the wall.
Yeah. They didn't do this, people.
Modern snow sheds that
Were
were in
part
use
of it
right up to
cleaned
when
it
the
up?
track was abandoned in the 1990s.
Oh,
And from this point down, we are entirely inside for the next mile or 2 miles, whatever it is.
whoa.
You're entirely. The whole railroad operated inside this building, if you will. Everything was indoors. And that meant that even passing sidings like this, everything was inside the snow sheds.
Wouldn't you say that when people have to do something, when they're paid enough, and when they say, because we don't really know if they had to hire 1,000 Chinamen and Irishmen. Excuse the way, I don't know the terms we're using now, but they could do this. They had the people down there cutting down all the trees, everything. I mean, if they pay the people enough, they'll do it. I remember, who knows what my dad, the other electricians, when they were working in New York in the early 70s, what they were doing. It was also top secret. I guess they were only hiring the masons like my dad.
The entire line over the top was covered. There were no open spaces whatsoever. In this shot, you can see a section house and maybe a telegraph. I'm not sure what, but the buildings are built right into the snow sheds with the entrances facing inside the snow sheds, so that there was no reason to ever go out.
They had to come up with a history.
A lot of these snow sheds were rebuilt and modernized in
I'll
the
bet.
1950s after.
To make it say, like, here's how they did it,
Oh,
everybody.
look at that.
Now, if you want to
Wow.
hike this line in the winter,
They love it. It's fun.
now it's very important to keep in mind that 12,000 Chinese were brought in to work on this line. And, it's 12,000 people. You cannot say what their dreams were, what their agendas were, why they had come. Some probably just wanted to make some money and go home. Some maybe had family back in China. We don't know. We don't know anything about these people.
These intrepid motorists, you had to have some courage to head out on the open highway,
Or sometimes, like me, you end up in the situation going, am I really the dumbest person? How am I going to get out of this? One more thing. Great Summit on a motorcycle, you Harley people.
Right on. All right. So
Right
I've been
on,
here for
dude.
years and never been there. Well, we gonna check it out today. Bridge up there, and oh my gosh,
Cool.
I guess it is closed. So we are going to turn around, double back. But I'm here to tell you it was way more than that. This tunnel had to be dug by hand with explosives.
Dug by hand with explosives. Ugh.
There were no power tools used in the construction of this tunnel. When constructed, it was 19 feet high and 16 feet wide through solid granite. Granite is supremely dense and hard stuff.
Oh my goodness, it is so hard. Some cool pictures, maybe. Hey, there you
Project
go.
started right in the middle of the Civil War that was raging back east.
Wow,
The entire
a
railroad
lot of
was finished
people.
in 1869,
That's why they had to call China.
linking the East Coast to the West Coast, and this changed everything. It was one of the great technological and engineering.
China said, we'll come help you, but you don't rip us off again. And it was just like that Charlie Brown and his girlfriend with the football. I'll hold it for you this time, baby.
To Promontory Summit, Utah, and the Union Pacific from Omaha, Nebraska, west to Promontory. It was financed through various government and company bonds.
No, it was a scam, a money-making scam that was so bad. I wish I had time to get into it.
Got here from Sacramento. The lion's share of this work was done by the Chinese. Almost 10,000 of them over the course
12,000
of
we
the
just
line.
heard. So
Inside out on two faces.
There you go.
So you guys come
blow
from
it up.
the outside,
That's the
guys are on inside, there are
nitroglycerin.
4 separate faces at work at one time.
We're gonna get into a lot of
Debris
tunnels
somehow
today.
had to be
Hit it.
turn, and then they hit it again. Hit
And
it
then they
twice
turn
again,
it.
Quarter turn.
Yeah.
Hit it again.
How long did it take?
And winter. And also consider where we're at. This is the summit of the Sierra Nevada. And in winter, that means snow and a lot of it. In the first winter,
It's not as bad. We're in the San Juan Mountains are so much better if you want to survive, to be blessed and be rescued by the fire of Gog Magog. I prefer San Juan Mountains, but if you want to go here, it's there. It's still there.
40 feet of snow fell. And tunnels had to be dug through the snowbanks in order to get to the work site. The workers, the Chinese, the Irish, and the other folks that were working the tunnel many times slept in big snow caves in little huts and would shuttle back and forth to work in these long snow tunnels. And windows had to be opened in the side of the snow tunnel so they could get rid of the granite that was coming out of the side of the mountain. Sometimes snow
And
would cover up the work site as well.
from
and
the
dig it out, and
coal burning
avalanches were common. It's a great
locomotive.
testament to the engineers of the 19th century.
What about that?
When the four work faces. Sorry about the wind. It's windy up here at the summit. The views of Donner Lake behind me and the greater surroundings.
There's a real mystery. So you're looking up these tunnels, and it just like Tunnel 41, was that what I was looking for? Tunnel 6. There's a lot of them. Let's see if there's any big ones that are cool to look at. Oh, I think I had this one pulled up later. That's from Manchester. Look, I didn't even want to click it, but I'll give you a preview of it. There was a fire in the 1960s. Disastrous. So Tunnel 6 and the Chinese. The Chinese built Tunnel 6. They built the Sierra Crossing, and without them, there would have been no transcontinental railroad, period, exclamation point, boom. As a class, they are quiet, peaceful, patient, industrious, and economical, ready and apt to learn all the different kinds of work required in railroad building. They soon became as efficient as white laborers, as would prove by the fact that their railroad was covered with railroads at the same time. Their nation had railroads. The Transcontinental Railroad over there, or Trans-Siberian, I guess that's a big deal. So anyway, 10 hours a day, it does seem that was what they expected back in the day. It's like, we're going to be working a day, 10 or 12 hours. Yep, exactly. Tunnels 2. These tunnels is just everywhere. Where's this one at? Here's another 100 Chinese workers brought in. Is this the summit? Santa Jose, Santa Cruz Turnpike. That doesn't sound like Donner Pass. San Andreas Fault. Everything has a summit, and these guys built through them all exactly the same way, and then they're still lost. You know, it's fine. That's the tunnel the train went through that was so important. Had to get working overtime. Had to pay these guys bills because mommy needed to darn a new pair of socks. Darn you socks for wearing out. Here's a video page of the western portal of the Summit Tunnel in 1910. I just thought that guy on the bike, you know, it looks like a electric motorcycle or maybe a regular motorcycle. Summit tunnels, very interesting. They dug them by hand or with nitro. I guess I did like it. So there it is. I'm surprised if as soon as he saw it right after this, he started tipping his cap. I can see that it's dated 1899, but this picture was allegedly taken in 1910. Thus, we have stacked up wood on this side. We have a nice, safe-looking staircase. Is that what you want to call it? Ramp on the body part of the Titan that's been cleaned out and lined over with limestone. Same with this one. Go ahead, put your ads in there. Well, not if it's a production. I don't want to do it. Here's another Summit one. I'm not sure. This isn't Donner Pass, I don't think. Pennsylvania. They're all the same. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Doesn't matter where you go. There they are. I like that. Doesn't matter where you go. There they are. They're always going to be there. Say, look at me. I was on fire. What happened? How did this turn into a Gene Hackman click fest? Supposed to be 1 of 8, and then where's the other pictures? This is the only one you get to see. Except for these. There's a China Wall. Tunnel 6 on the coastline is near San Luis Obispo, California. It is the longest tunnel at the Union, so that's just over 1.1 kilometers. So 3/4 of a mile. Again, right there, the Coast Starlight operates. It's still working now, huh? Well, you didn't get even a picture on this. They can't all be home runs, I guess. So here's Summit Tunnel in 1999. Still looks the same to me. Chinese walls. I believe they found all of this, and all of the, it's like, oh no, they had to eat everybody, or just a few. Hey, next map. Let's go. I'll show you where I live. Right here. This valley, these mountains in Alamosa. This is old because Fort Garland isn't even a thing anymore. That's really not the way the road runs anymore either. Huh. Never seen so much fake stuff in my life. So these I looked up for, I think it's Sergio's show. We're doing something, and they were talking about Zoroastrianism. So I looked these up, and I just thought, Cyrus the King, Nebuchadnezzar, Xerxes, Artaxerxes, the Persian king, not the Babylonian. They all ended up, saying things like this, the Lord stirred the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, to send a proclamation throughout his kingdom and put it into writing as follows. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says: the Lord, God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build a house for him at Jerusalem in Judah. All right, you don't want to, you want to keep waiting on the time of the Gentiles. I invite you to just keep waiting. It's going to be a while. The anointing of Cyrus is primarily documented in the book of Isaiah. You've probably heard of that, where the prophet speaks of Cyrus as the Lord's chosen instrument. It states, this is what the Lord says to Cyrus, his anointed, whose right hand I have grasped to subdue nations before him, to disarm kings, to open the doors before him so that the gates will not be shut. You ever look at this verse? That seems interesting that he called him his anointed. That's 3 out of 39. Oh, huh. He used the same David. There's only really, one kind of anointing that was leading to Christ. Capital T, capital H, capital E, the Anointed. What is even anointed? He's good. Spirits probably don't have any anointing oil, but it's not unusual for us. We know what it's like to be anointed. Cyrus got anointed. David got anointed twice. What are the other 36? This is all the Messiah, our creator, wrote the end from the beginning, and drawing all nations to people was to be discerned line upon line, precept upon precept. Hit a little, that a little. That is why it took me a while. It's not like it just is something I would go send my children to do for me. That wasn't part of the plan. In ancient Israel, anointing oil with oil, symbolic act of setting someone apart for a holy purpose. You make them like a saint. Now you're set apart. The vessels in the temple, the showbread, the plates the showbread sat on, set apart. Kings like Saul and David were anointed by the prophet Samuel, signifying God's choice and empowerment for leadership. The concept of a future anointed one or Messiah developed during the future. Oh, yeah. That's what that was. There even, I don't believe that whole Maccabees stuff. So not having to be told to move it along. He's my shepherd. So he's still going on with this thing? Writing over a century before Cyrus's rise to power, explicitly named him as the deliverer of the Jewish people. Isaiah 44:28 states, who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he will fulfill all of my pleasure, which would be one, to be comforted when you have to walk in the valley of the shadow of death. Your foundation will be laid. She will be rebuilt, they said of Jerusalem. So let's look at you get it. More exploring.
And today, his old home is marked with a blue plaque, although sadly, due to a high, solid gate, it's very difficult to see. Beside the Thames, just west of Battersea Bridge. To oversee this enterprise, the Brunel family moved to London, setting up home on the opposite side of the river, just across from the sawmill.
How about that guy, huh?
Road, which is
Brunel. There he is.
And in this video,
he's
famous.
I'd
like to take you on a special tour of the various sites around the city, with which both she met Mark whilst working as a governess in the French city of Rouen. The pair fell in love, but unfortunately,
so
there was
cute.
turmoil on the horizon. In the late 1780s, the French Revolution erupted.
Dang, off with their heads. We've heard it before.
To rekindling their relationship, Mark and Sophia were married at St. Andrew's Church, Holborn, on the 1st of November,
And this is the guy that's going to tie into the Alfred Beach, in the beach tunnel. Even he found a shield, and supposedly because he was so much in love and he wanted to make a comfortable life for his sweetheart, he said, I got this really good idea, and if you could get me out of prison, I'm going to start to work on it right now. Go.
The King's Bench was located close to Marshalsea Prison, where Charles Dickens's father was also locked up for debt. The approximate location being where the Scoville estate is now located.
Don't worry, Governor Clinton, the guy who cleaned out the Erie Canal when it was called Clinton's Ditch, he had to be bailed out of jail too, but when enough people said, you know what, if we get enough workers, we can clean this sucker out, we're back in business. Boom, no rubbish dumping here.
Although she wasn't required to, Sophia insisted on moving into the King's Bench prison with her husband. In a letter to his friend, Dr. Wollaston, Mark confessed that the incredible fortitude displayed by his wife was the only thing which kept him going through this dark period.
Love.
Direct link between London's docks
True
and
love.
the one desired. An early tunneling attempt had been made by the great pioneer of steam,
Like looking
Richard
in a
Trevithick,
mirror.
at the turn of the 19th century, although he and his team had found the sludgy ground impossible to.
Dude, show the tunnels underground.
It was from this shaft that the tunneling commenced. Work on digging the Thames Tunnel proved to be slow and incredibly dangerous. Grafting by candlelight, the workers, many of who were skilled miners and bricklayers, toiled in hideous conditions with the
These
heavily polluted water of the
conditions are
Thames,
hideous,
which
but mama needs a new pair of shoes. Baby needs a new pair of shoes.
at that time, remember, was little more than an open sewer, dripping down and causing regular build-ups of methane gas, the presence of which resulted in much.
Methane is what in the United States we call fart.
6 men were killed in a deluge, and Isambard himself nearly lost his life. By sheer fortune, he was pulled free from the torrent.
So he develops these tunnels. In un momento, I'm going to look up that Alfred Beach. Maybe I should look up his Alfred Beach shield.
During his period of rehabilitation, Isambard also spent time in Bristol, which, by coincidence, happened to be at a time when a competition was being held to find a design for a bridge.
Everybody has that competition thing. That's just crazy, right?
A trip in 1831 on
I
the
love
Liverpool and
Bug.
Manchester
Let's
Railway,
go on a railroad
which,
trip.
despite being a pioneering line, he wasn't overly impressed with, for he found the ride to be rough and bumpy, as demonstrated.
We could do better if we make it like
First
this.
is the Warncliffe Viaduct, which carries the line through Ealing between the stations at Hanwell and South.
This is smoother, right, honey pie?
Built between 1836 and 1837, this was the first such viaduct to be
You
completed.
know how they
underground.
built it? With a series of 14 karate chops.
Whilst we're in Ealing, it's worth taking. When the glass monolith was relocated from Hyde Park to Sydenham, he designed the 2 huge water towers, which were required to power the many fountains dotted around the park.
Oh, and you know what they said? Boy, when this thing burns, it's going to go.
And 1845. The bridge connected the now vanished Hungerford Market.
He
to
built
Belvedere Road,
everything,
pretty
not
much
only
following
the
same
tunnels
path
with the
as present-day
shield under the Thames. How'd you
Isambard's
do it?
third ship, however, would prove to be far more problematic.
Use big chains.
Having revolutionized transatlantic travel,
There
he
you
now
go.
turned his attention to doing the same between Britain and Australia, envisioning a mighty vessel that could make the trip down under non-stop.
Wow.
Ship Company, who renamed the vessel.
So he
the
did
SS
that
Great Eastern,
too. The guy that did the tunnels in the
and
United
to which
States.
I have devoted so much time, thought,
I just wanted to get the
and
size
on the
of the
15th of
chain.
September 1859, the great man passed away.
Oh,
He was 53.
that's not very old.
On the 15th of September,
But
I lost
it
my
must have been
oldest
those
and best
chains are
friend, both fellow
carcinogenic.
engineer Daniel Gooch, soon after. By his death, the greatest of England's engineers was lost.
Goodbye.
The man with the greatest originality of thought and power of execution.
He kind of like
Golden
looking in a
equals
mirror.
great. The commercial world thought him extravagant.
If
but
I was Winston Churchill. Looks like I looked up the Coanda effect. You got that coming. Secret tunnel.
Did you know there was a secret subway in New York City built before the one we use today? It was invented by Alfred Eli Beach all the way back in 1870, a full 34 years before New York's first subway opened. At the time, the roads of New York were full of horse-drawn carts that clogged the streets and caused near constant traffic that was choking the streets.
I'm
Quite
choking.
literally. All those feet and horses and wheels were kicking up so much dust and blow a circular rail car back and forth through an almost airtight tunnel, like a pneumatic tube.
Just
The
like
building
it.
permit would need to be signed by a particularly corrupt politician named William Boss Tweed, who made tons of money on
Tammany
trains and
Hall,
horse-drawn buses
everybody.
in NYC.
Mob, Irish
Beach
mob.
knew that Tweed would never okay a
Would
project
never
that would lose
okay
money
it.
for him and his cohorts. So he hatched a plan. He told officials his design was an underground mail delivery system.
Yeah, man.
Beach's plan worked. He snuck the permit
Alfred
past Boss
Beach,
Tweed, who
Masters
signed it
Meat.
without a second. Finally able to start building in secret. A small crew began digging
This
a
could be the
giant
worst
tunnel
video,
deep
but I
beneath
don't know
Broadway in
how
the
it
heart of
could be any
Manhattan,
worse.
all under the cover of night. The whole thing was a covert operation. Beach even rented an abandoned building.
This one here, though, you know, the history guy, he's kind of touchy on his stuff. Revelator knew.
Today, we will talk about the most mysterious metro tunnel in New York from the mid-19th century. Buildings due to tunnel construction. Since he didn't get official permission, Beach was allowed to
That's
build
not,
small
you know, we don't
diameter
know
tunnels
that
for
true
pneumatic
story. All
rail.
we know is that
Beach
somehow they
decided to
stumbled
secretly
upon
build a small
this.
tunnel and launch a pneumatic train. Once
The story is they stumbled upon it. They found some old pictures and they go, I guess there was a railroad train here. But they were digging another tunnel and they found it and they said, oh, yeah. Then there's stories about it in Scientific America. The, you know, pneumatic transit, you know, they paid for a guy just to wave when they come around the corner. Hi. Yeah, it ends up underneath a Delvin clothing, so they had to work it in. But see, they found it lined, and here's people investigating it going, did you know this was here?
small discrepancies in the story, we know Beach decided to build the first tunnel secretly at night in the center of New York. Officially,
say.
a small tunnel for pneumatic mail was being constructed. Every night, a series of wagons transported piles of soil from the tunnel construction site. Beach used his own tunneling shield for the excavation.
Yeah, that's
On
the
February
thing that guy
26,
Burnell said he
1870,
invented.
the
There's
tunnel
quite the fight about
was
it.
open to the public. A journalist described the event. Behind the station
These are the
wall
very
was a
few rare
50-ton air
pictures that they
compressor
took
with
before they
100
covered it
horsepower.
back up.
Beach spent $350,000 of his own money.
Here's the
to build
main
a
one.
95
This was one of my first
closed.
videos.
In 1898, the building housing the tunnel burned down, and the pneumatic metro was forgotten. In 1912, workers expanding the Broadway subway accidentally discovered the abandoned tunnel, finding Beach's tunneling shield, rusty rails, and a pneumatic metro car.
Look what we found, everybody. Let's start the 1912 rewrite of Money, Everything Else, because it does look like we built this world on a foundation that there's nothing new under the sun. So we're going to have to go with the globe theory, bring the Jesuits back. Something's going on. Beach pneumatic train, go.
Instance, it seems unrealistic that they built the tunnel, lined it with bricks, built the underground station, and installed a 50-ton compressor in just 2 months, mostly work.
What's the problem? Or as the guys that don't think they drink too much tell the cops that pull them over, they go, I've got one question for you. What's the oblong, professor?
Working at night. In 1912, they found a unique structure from the past, but instead of preserving it, the tunneling shield disappeared and the cars were likely scrapped. In 1932, the New York Historical Society ordered a memorial plaque in honor.
So, what do you think? They did this in the United States and England at the same time. And now they're finding that looks kind of, I don't know, Greek?
English engineer Mark Brunel. They look very similar to the
Yeah, they
American
do,
tunnels.
don't they? And that's what I was saying. How, you know, I get it while they were arguing who really stole this technology, who gets credit for stealing it first.
However, Brunel made his sketches in the early 19th century and couldn't have seen the American tunnel. Perhaps the American engineer saw Brunel's drawings
Or perhaps all of this mud flood was Armageddon is correct.
and made the tunnel based on them. But these early sketches of Brunel were never published, so the American couldn't have seen them.
Unless he
I
had
believe
that
Brunel made the
ESPN.
sketches based on real existing tunnels he saw with his own eyes. In America, they accidentally found a functioning tunnel with all the equipment, compressors,
Go America. If we're going to find something, it's usually going to be by accident.
and cars. They just cleared the tunnels, made some repairs, and started using them within 2 months. They wanted to excavate other tunnels, but for some reason, they were not allowed. Maybe these sketches were made in St. Petersburg, most modern style cars, but in 1904, they built these shabby handcars. Now, let's move to Paris.
Do it.
See the damaged tunnel with a double tunnel filled
Oh,
with
no. Don't tell me there's a Burnell Alfred Beach in Parlez-vous Francais?
debris. The left side is excavated, but the right side isn't.
Uh-oh.
The shape of the small tunnel is the same as in New York. Here, they just
Only
excavated
circumstantial evidence. This is only circumstantial.
an ancient tunnel. Workers are
They don't have any right to call it ancient. Wow, that looks ancient.
dismantling a third tunnel wall in
That
this
is,
photo,
look at the,
forming an ancient wall.
okay,
In this photo,
Chinese
they
wall.
first poured the arch, then started digging. It's clear the tunnel was excavated. You can see 4 tunnels from an ancient civilization. If you look at photos
Stop calling it ancient.
of Paris, you can see how they rebuilt ancient tunnels to adapt them for the
Wow.
modern metro.
Everything underground has already
You can
been
see
dug.
Paris metro photos via the link in the description.
This is fun, huh?
The most
But, you know,
interesting is New
basically it's going to
York's
come
pneumatic
down
metro,
to, oh, yeah, have you prayed and done all that? What? This was
What
stupid.
happens when an actor is so good at certain roles that Hollywood doesn't know what to do with him? Gary Oldman isn't just a great actor. He's a chameleon. From Dracula to Churchill, Beethoven.
He's like Gary Oldman. Or no. Who's the guy that is Batman? And the guy that like 310 to Yuma. He is he's like this guy, a clone or something. They just clone him for a part.
In Zorg, he disappears into every role. But he was so good at playing bad guys that Hollywood refused to see him as anything else. And when some controversy and personal struggles hit at the
That he just did a bunch of drugs and then he kicks in the door. He raids the apartment by himself. He's so high on drugs. He's bad.
full method actor. Instead, he focused on screen presence, even overacting on purpose, which led to some of the most memorable performances of his generation. Born in London in 1958, Oldman didn't come from a wealthy family, with his alcoholic father leaving them when Oldman was just 7.
Blimey.
But before he became Hollywood's go-to bad guy, he started the decade with something completely different. In 1990's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, he starred alongside Tim Roth as 2 minor characters from Shakespeare's
Isn't that the way it goes? This scene.
Stansfield is considered one of his greatest villains, with the film becoming an instant cult classic. At this point, Oldman had completely taken over Hollywood as its go-to villain, but even when he wasn't playing a bad guy, he was still playing insane over-the-top characters. This was seen in Immortal Beloved.
I really think that the only, let's just be on the lookout. These reoccurring characters, these are real. The things that are in, the decoding, it can go on. It's not as important as the Bible.
Law for the priests and for the Levites according to the fields of the towns, for Judah rejoiced over the priests and the Levites who ministered, and they performed the service of their God and the service of purification, as did the singers and the gatekeepers, according to the command of David and his son Solomon. For long ago in the days of David and Asaph, there were directors of the singers, and there were songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. And all Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah gave the daily portions for the singers and the gatekeepers, and they set apart that which was for the Levites, and the Levites set apart that which was for the sons of Aaron.
The only reason it worked, it mentions earlier, is because God gave them that intent in their heart. Now, the whole arguing about when does Easter start, should there be an Easter, when did this big argument start, between the Sumerianisms and the other people that go more for the sun-based, it's the same thing. The Hebrews used the lunar-based calendar, the Romans used the sun-based. And that's what this is all about now. But do we even need to worry about it? Do we even need to do Easter? Early Christianity, they want to talk about it, but they're using, oh, well, this is what this fake person who writes about a fake history that the destruction of Jerusalem was no big deal, didn't affect the rest of the world. People didn't have to flee to the mountains and everything. No, these guys came out, and then these guys all wanted to argue about when is the true thing, and of course, all your early church fathers in Asia, oh, nothing happened. Armageddon wasn't a big deal. We've got these church fathers that we can all lean back on. And, it is. It's Judaizing. It's making the Judaizers think that Jesus and teach that he didn't come back in that generation, that it's all faked. And that Josephus and everything else in your history is built upon it. These lies of like, oh, it's important to figure out what Paul the apostle condemns, trying to figure out seasons and dates and Sabbaths. It's just contend. Now they're 14ers. They have 14 laws that are ready to go out. They're ready to bring back in their oral traditions and everything else that would lead to a situation where you might hear again things like, well, why should we listen to Jesus? He didn't even know how to keep the Sabbath. And in the meantime, mediastinum, as the pneumo mediastinum is a new thing where healthy young men's lungs are collapsing, just so that you know what the mediastinum is. It's that part, it's super important part, thorax, thalamus, hypothalamus, the black goo. And somehow, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, but honestly, if you're not at the point of every breath is a miracle gift from God, and that if you throw a little dust on these things, they all look like rocks, just in weird shapes and different tunnels everywhere. But it's these sacks that cover, and that are lined with fat, that so you don't die if somebody, if you accidentally run into a door at night. There's little air sacs in here that are somehow getting affected, and they want you to line up your children or you. Do you remember? Some of you were ready to go to Ukraine and fight, or see what the money was anyway. How much are they getting paid? Well, we're going to go stand up for those guys. This is all a trap. As we started earlier, we covered that they don't even really, the whole angle of attack and a flight, the wings have to be this shape. It's as fake as the quantum math that faked the atomic bomb so that people would become globe-loving, unwise people that don't believe the scriptures when it teaches that the mud flood was Armageddon. The golden age is past, and after that time that was ruled with a rod of iron, because it was wheat and tares growing together, there was the other reaping. And now your orphan trained brain is wondering, there's no way my grandma and grandpa could have been in on it. They're sweethearts. Wouldn't you act nice too if they were going to kill them and their whole family if they ever said, wow, dude, this is a setup, something happened big? But let's face it, it's a special kind of person that's going to have to say, go ahead, lobotomize me. There's no way I'm saying this is normal. What would drive people to be hobos? And just say, I'm not working for the fascist man or the labor's, movements, because that seems sketchy too. In our recent past, right here on the Flat Earth Nation, where the mud flood was Armageddon. That's why me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else. We know we're called, chosen, elect, predestined to tell you, you have an appointment if you want to be adopted into the family of God, where you will have to symbolically, figuratively be on your knees, confessing your sins, that he's changed your heart. The things that you used to love, now you hate. The things you used to hate, now you love. You've been born again. You didn't choose to be born. You didn't choose to be born again. All of a sudden, if you hear his voice, you're one of those sheep. You're going to follow him. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios, amigos.